Now I want to start sewing the shirt. So the first thing we're going to do now is to pick one of the piece of the back facings and then put a label, right? Now the label might be positioned at 1.5 inches or there about 2 inches lower than the neckline. Then you sew the label in that form. In sewing the label, you must make sure you sew all through, meaning you sew right round the label, right? This sewing helps you to make the label not to be a disturbance on your customer's neckline or the back of the outfit, right? Then you sew this label all through. Bear in mind that you are going to sew it at the right side of one of the back piece facings. Then after the label sewing now, the next thing you will do now is to sew the back facings joining the half cut of the back piece of the clothes, right? Then after you have done this now, the next thing you do now is the notch points. The right face of the real inner back facing will face up. That's the right side of the real back inner facing will face up. Now the wrong side of the back piece will face down this way. The two notching must correspond, must tally, right? Then the right side of the other one facing the right side of the back piece this way, right? That meaning the right the one of the piece of the facing, the one you fix label on, this one will face up. The wrong side of the back piece facing it, then the one of the last piece of the back facing, the right side will face the right side of the back piece of the outfit. That's right to wrong and then right to right, right? Fine. Then you start from the center point to sew. Now that center point is for your joining, so that you have an effective joining. Start from center point, the middle point, you sew. Then make sure that the three pieces must be together. They must be held evenly, right? Make sure they are held evenly. You sew all through. Bear in mind that there was no gumming or whatsoever on this outfit. The only place you will gum will be the collar and possibly the cuff of your outfit, depending if you want to gum the cuff. Then the next you will do now, you fling it over and then complete the next sewing from the center joining as well. Bear in mind you must do this as you need to follow the whole procedures or protocols while sewing this type of shirt cutting and sewing as well. And the joining must be half an inch, please. Bear in mind that half an inch was what you added in the cutting time. So you must bring out the half now in the sewing aspect. Then after the joining, you cut your dress. Now let's see how it turns out to be. Now after the joining, this is how it will be, right? This is how it will be. The joining will now be at the middle of the wrong side of the piece, right? Then you fling it over this way. As you can see, this is how it's coming out, right? So nice. Our shirt is fine. So this is the inside, right? This is how it will be. Now the join points will now be folded to the real back piece. Then you top stitch from the outside, that from the real part of the face of the shirt. You top stitch. Now you must top stitch in order to relax the half inch allowance inside of the facing. So you top stitch this way. You might decide to sew tip to tip in order to guide it properly. And then as you're sewing, also make sure that you cross check or you bring out the one under to face upside toward the neck. So make sure it's facing up, just like here. It's facing up this way, and then you sew. Then having done that now, you're done with the back facing attachment. Don't forget that the armhole will be taken care of while trying to trim our shoulder and our neck, our armhole as well. So this is the result. And then you bring out the other piece. When top stitching, make sure that you don't top stitch both this one under. This one will be left alone. You're only going to top stitch this on the real, on this one. That's one part of the facing, top stitching on it, not the both of them together. Then make sure you balance your clothes properly, right? Then after this, you're not going to iron to make sure that everything is balanced, right? You must relax it properly and then you iron properly. So now I have ironed it out. Now this is how relaxed it is. As you can see, it's so relaxed. Then the underneath as well is as well relaxed as well, right? Then after this ironing now, the next thing you do now, you bring the parts of your button allowance and then you top stitch, right? Even though this top stitch is optional, but you will top stitch. Then you must make sure you top stitch in a straight line. Your hands must be straight enough because this top stitching is part of your finishing. You should not have a rough sewing. Make sure both the underneath stitch and the up stitch are neat enough. Then you stitch all through. Then when you must have gotten to this stage now, your shirt is almost ready. It's just for you to couple or continue the other protocols, other processes as you progress. Then I have top stitch. Don't forget that you also iron, right? So you iron to make sure the tension on the top stitching was relaxed. Now don't forget that the one you top stitch was the one that doesn't have hemming gum underneath. The one that will house the buttons alone is the one you top stitch. The one that wasn't hemmed, right? That's the right one. So now when you have top stitch the button allowances, now you place the right side of the front panel this way and then pick the edge at that point and then fling it over the other way around. Thus we are trying to seal the shoulder. I will still explain more on the next one. If this one wasn't clear, I will explain more on the next one. Then you sew. This sewing must be half an inch, right? Half an inch is what you use to join this together. You sew all through. Make sure the half an inch is sewn from beginning to the end of the shoulder joining allowance. Make sure that the three pieces of the fabric are even. Then you stitch properly and then you cut your threads as shown. Now when you must have gotten to this stage now, the next thing you will do now is to duplicate the same thing on the other one. You just have to draw it out and then your shoulder is sealed. Your shoulder is sealed, right? The joining is being hidden in between the facings. So now let's do the next one. Now like I said, this is the back part of the clothes. Now you are going to take the right side of the front. The corresponding part of the button allowances must face at the center panel of this outfit, right? The armhole area will match on the armhole region. Then hold the front panel and one of the back piece together, and then the one at the back now fling it over to come in front. That is just what I did. Look at how I'm doing it. To fling it over to come in front that way, right? Let's do it again so it will be clearer. I said when you place it this way, you take the right side of the front panel this way and place it this way. Bear in mind that please, this button allowance must be at the center of the back. Don't make this one to come at the armhole area. The button allowance must be at the center of the back piece. Then when you take the right side facing the right side of the back, then you hold one of the piece at the back, at the piece of the back. Then the inside facing you will now turn it over from front this way and then join it again backwards to the other piece. That's what I did, right? So I hope this will explain it very well for us to know how to do this. Then you proceed to the joining. This joining must be half an inch, right? It must be half an inch. Then you join from there, half an inch. Don't forget, this is one method you can use to achieve your shirt sewing. There are different methods out there. This method is not trying to contradict any method out there. It's just trying to show you another way you can achieve your shirt sewing, right? So I would like you to compare or contrast in all these methods. Just get to know them and then know the one that you find confident enough and the one to adopt, right? So you cut your thread as well, and then you bring out the back piece this way. Now this is for the joining, right? As you can see, the shoulder is properly joined. This is how it will be, right? This is how it will be. Now the joining is being hidden in between these two facings. As you can see, it's being hidden between these two facings, right? So this is how it will be. Now after that, you now top stitch on the shoulder. Now this top stitching is to help you relaxing the back piece of the clothes so that there won't have any air inside the facing, right? So you top stitch on the shoulder area. Now this top stitching must be done tip to tip, and you must be neat and straight enough. In any case that your own stitching is not neat, make sure you loosen it and then you correct them. Please, losing is part of sewing, so don't be worried when you are losing. It only helps you to perfect your sewing, but then minimize the number of times you lose when you're making a particular outfit. Note your mistakes. That's the only way you can avoid errors. Then after top stitching the shoulder, you top stitch the back piece to make it be a one piece of clothes, because while fixing the collar, you might have it to be you might have one to pull if you do not top stitch the back. So top stitch it now to hold the facings to the back piece together, and then after doing this now, you also link up to the other shoulder and then you top stitch the shoulder as well. This video will be self-explanatory. All you need to do is use your earpiece, watch the video over and over again for you to pick some silent voices or points that I try to explain. Please don't watch this once and expect to master it. Watch it 2 to 3 times before you start trying out this method for more clarification, right? Then you cut your threads as shown. After that, now the next thing you do now is your alright, so now what you do next is your armhole trimming. This armhole trimming you are doing will be for your shoulder joining, but then before we do the shoulder joining, you must make sure I want to first of all do the cuff first, the placket, before I go to my armhole trimming. So just watch as we progress in this video. Then we are placing the placket. Now like I told you, the smaller placket of 4.5 inches I marked that wasn't gummed will be sewn from inside on the part that is smaller, that has the smaller part of the shirt slitting, right, and not the bigger one. The part that has the smallest slitting, we have the small part of the placket. Then you sew. You are going to sew 1/4 inch, right? Make sure you sew at a very reasonable extent, 1/4 inch. Then when you sew 1/4 inch, you are now going to turn it over to the front. Your sewing must stop at the notching point. That point you notch, it must be where you your sewing must stop. Then after that, cut your threads as well. Then next thing we do now is to fling it over to the front and then you top stitch. Bear in mind there was no gumming and it was done intentionally, but if you feel you want to gum, there's no problem. I'm only showing you how I do mine, that you will find it very interesting. Then after that, you now make sure you arrange the edge, the points you had the sewing to end. If you had sewn more than that extent, you can still notch it to make sure you bring out the notching. It will be relaxed. Then after this point now, you fold it 2 times. Fold half an inch first underneath the sewing point, and then fold again. Now this folding rather, we now make it to correspond to your cutting inch. Then you stitch, right? Then make sure it's properly tucked in, and then the new line must cover the old line you have sewn. Please, very, very important. You stitch all through to the end. Then when you must have done this now, you also cut your threads as usual. Then the next thing you do now is you take the part of the bigger placket, the one that was cut at 2.5, and then you also sew from inside, and then you bring it out to the front. Make sure that the length of the placket is equal to the length of the sleeve. Don't allow it to be shorter while sewing. Then also sew with that same 1/4 inch, and make sure you stitch the beginning so that it will not pull at any slightest tension or effect there. Sew all through. After this now, you now top stitch again. So after you must have sewn this now, you now position it properly this way, and then make sure you take your time to arrange this. Now this placket must be able to cover the other one. That's the reason for it to be bigger than the usual, right? Then make sure that the underneath one is properly tucked in so that it will not come out after sewing. Then when you must have confirmed everything you are doing, you can now start sewing. Then you start from the end of that smaller placket, you stitch. Now the reason for doing this is to make sure you have a nice effect. Then you stitch properly, and then you sew. Now you must make sure your sewing must come tip to tip, right? Tip to tip. Then you cut off the underneath one. The reason for doing this is to enable you have a nice folding at the down, so that it won't be too thick or it won't have any puffy effects. Then you fold. Now this folding can be done in a V-shape form or in a block form. However you want to do it, it's still okay, but then I prefer to do mine in a block form. Take your time to do this. Then once you have finished folding to the point you want, you stitch properly, right? And then cut off any excesses coming out. Then you sew from this point. You make sure as well you sew tip to tip, right? It must be tip to tip, please. Tip to tip. It must be tip to tip. The placket is what I'm trying to sew, right? So just sew and stop at the point you have notched. Your sewing must end at that notching of 4 inches you notch, right, or 3.5, as the case may be. Then you come up from the upside. You come up. So now we are done with the first placket. Look at how it is. So this is how yours as well should be, right? So this is how yours should be. And then we are going to proceed to the next one, which I will also show you in this video as well, so that in case you do not understand this one, the next one we explain better, so that you have a proper understanding. Like I promised us that this video will be self-explanatory. That's why I'm taking my time to explain. So hence the reason I'm doing the coverage voice while my guy is doing the sewing aspect of it, right? So now we are trying to do the next cuff, right? So we are maintaining the same sewing measurements and everything. So I'm just trying to show you this, so in case you don't understand the other one, you understand this one as well. So I'm just trying to show you again so you understand it properly, right? Now if you notice this next one, I first started with the bigger one, so that the reason of doing this is to minimize or reduce the weight of turning. Now because this is the left part of the sleeve, I actually sewed this I actually sewed the bigger one first on the left part, while I sewed the smaller one first on the right part of the sleeve. It just sewing differences, right? But it doesn't really mean anything. You can as well maintain the same sewing on your regular pattern. Some persons sew from left, while some sew from right, while some are comfortable with both or either ways. So you make sure you get your placket positioned properly and you sew. So that's just for the placket sewing, and then you, after sewing this one now, you turn it over and sew on top accordingly. So when you have locked up the smaller plackets, you now start sewing the bigger one. Bear in mind that this method I'm using now is peculiar to me, and this is the second method of shirts I use in cutting and sewing. And then if you feel this is okay by you, you can adopt it. If you feel it's self-explanatory, fine. If you feel it's confusing or it's contradicting any previous knowledge you know on shirt making, you still have your right to make do with your old knowledge. But then I'm just trying to expose us to different approaches of making shirts, so that whichever one you find conducive, you can go ahead with it, right? Then please make sure that if you are going to practice whatever I have taught on this shirt video, you must make use of the whole procedures or processes I'm using. Don't use your own previous method to sew your shirts and then come up with questions on the group or on my comment section, because I won't know where the error is coming from when you do not make use of my method, right? So if you are going to ask questions, please make sure your questions you're asking must come from my own method of cutting and sewing, so I will know how best to attend to your questions, because invariably I have dealt with a whole lot of questions from different people, so there is no new question that I won't be able to answer as regards to my ways of cutting and sewing, right? So that's why most of the time it's as if my explanations are self-explanatory, because I take my time to take note of those areas that are of great essence and that might be of confusion to you, for you to understand better of why cutting and sewing as well. So now this is the last part of the placket we are sewing as well. So it's just for you to see and understand, should in case there's any error or any confusion already, this one will get to clarify you. So now we are done with the placket sewing, and then I'll also take us to the processes of cutting the cuffs and how to go about it. Just stay tuned, you're going to learn a lot in this video. Now we are here to iron. Now the essence of ironing is to make sure that everything is properly balanced before you progress to any other stage. So you iron out the whole placket area, and then bear in mind that this thing would have tucked in, the area here would have tucked in this way, right? Then you must make sure you iron it out so that you have a nice result. So that's how you do it, right? So you sprinkle water on that aspect and then you iron. Now we are trying to iron out the shirts as we have joined them, so this is a clearer view of it. So you take your time as well. You iron out the bottom allowance areas, and then you also come now and then trim the armhole at this point. That's the back piece of the armhole trimming, right? Then look at how it's coming out. Our shirt is almost ready, right? Then you now position them properly, and then you balance your neck and shoulder as well before you start trimming your armhole area. So you must make sure the button allowances are positioned properly on the outfit. Then it must be placed at the center fold of the back. So you take your time to arrange the shirt, and then you iron, and then later on you now trim up the armhole with your chest measure, with your shoulder measurement, right? But make sure everything is properly ironed, right? So take a closer look at it so that you understand better off. This is how it should be. Everything must be ironed. The button allowances must correspond on each other, right? This is how it should be. So look at it. Then we are now going to trim our armhole area, and then fine-tune our neck cuttings all through, right? So I hope you are enjoying the video. Please, if you are watching the video from my YouTube channel, make sure you click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to this channel for more updates so that you get the notifications when I make new videos and upload. And don't forget, I still have Telegram classes for those of you that are not yet on Telegram, so that you get to come into the Telegram family. Trim this armhole now from the exact point of the front piece of the outfit, right? So you trim it this way, and then trim it off all through, straight up that way. So our armhole has been taken care of. And then you also trim this one as well. From that same position, you trim your armhole from that point as well. You trim it off in that direction. Right, so you are done trimming your armhole. This is how the shape is coming out. And then you now come to fine tune the neck. You notch the shoulder area and notch the shoulder points as well. Then you now fine tune your neck to make sure that there are no excesses or encroachments on the neck region. You correspond the button allowance folding, trim it off properly, and then trim it off a bit on the neck front so that it will come out nicely for your customer, right? So trim here off as well, so your neck will correspond properly. So check our shoulder, if it's the same shoulder we have. Now you put it into 2 equal parts, and then you measure, you make sure it's equal as well. Now at this point, the front will be a bit longer. Don't worry, right? You trim it off as you progress. The front panel will be longer. Don't worry about it. Then our shoulder is 18 inches shoulder. That was what we used in cutting. Then 18 divided by 2 is 9. Then plus half an inch for slip joining, 9.5. Exact shoulder we want. Now you now apply the chest measurements for us to get the trimmings of the side and the down area. Chest is 42, so you apply 42, which is 10.5. So you mark 10.5 there, plus extra half inch for the top stitching effect. Now you apply your chest area there with extra half an inch, and then make sure you cross check your whole measurements before you trim. From the center fold this way, you mark extra half an inch, that's 11, right? So at the down area, now you know the shirt area at the down is always curvy, so you have to add extra half so that to accommodate the person's hip measurements. Now I'm marking 11.5, that's 46. So you now connect accordingly as shown, right? Fine. Then you trim it off. Then when you must have finished that one, you now apply your shirt length. Now the shirt length we had was 31 inches, so you mark 31 and a half an inch for the folding of the down parts of the shirt. Then add extra, okay, you mark it all through, right? All through that way, 31 and a half. Then come up by 3.5 or 3, as the case may be, for your curve part of your shirt. 3.5 or 3, as the case may be. And then freehand sketch, you now connect in that form from the 31 inches length. Then you cut off from there and then give you that shirt curve at the down. So this is how it will be. Then we are done cutting the trimmings. Then the next thing we do now is to cut the cuffs and then join the sleeves with the outfits, and then we start locking the shirt, which we also see as we progress. So this is how the shirt will look like, right? I hope you are enjoying the video. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mr. Redefined, and then follow me on Instagram as well with the same handle. Alright guys, so now we are trying to do the sleeve. You know, we are going to make a packet shirt that will top stitch the edge of the sleeve. So you have to mark 7 inches down or thereabout. Then the round sleeve I had was 15 by 2, 7.5. Add extra half for the turn up effect. That mark at 8. So whatever measurement you have, divide by 2, add extra half to it. Then mark it there. And then the elbow is 14. 14 by 2 is 7, plus extra half as well, 7.5. Then the fist is 8 inches fist. You also consider your placket, your pleating allowance of 1 inch, and then the half inch again for the turn up effect. That's 5.5 in total. Placket is 8 by 2 is 4. Right, then extra 1 for the pleating, and then half inch again for the turn up effect. That's 5.5, and then you connect as shown. Now in connection, when you get to the armhole area, you have to move in this same curve effect. You don't go straight, move in the curve effect, and then you trim up the excesses. Now the essence of a perfect measurement can never be overemphasized here. You need to make sure that your measurement for your customer must be perfect before you can undergo this cutting method, because after this cutting there will be no room for adjustments if it happens to be tight on your customer. Then once you have cut the first one, you have to just place it on top of the next one and cut, so that you will have an exact cutting and have a uniformity in your clothing process. So make sure that both of them are equal in width and length, and then balance the underneath placket to avoid any error, right? Then after doing this, the next you will do now is to trim it out as you have trimmed the first one. And then you trim, right? You trim as shown. You are trimming the second sleeve. Then after you have trimmed, you are done with this. The next thing you do now is to start, you notch the edge as well. You also cut off the excesses, the hairs of the outfit there. Now, after you must have cut out your sleeve, so you just pick it up. Try to correspond it with your armhole, right? Place it this way and then make it to go all through to the end to make sure that they are corresponding. So at this point, it must be equal in length or in circular placement, right? So this is how it should be. So just to be sure, by the case you have the sleeve to be bigger, you trim it off. You also do the same thing on the other one as well. You also turn it this other way, and then you also take the corresponding sleeve. Make sure you pick the rightful sleeve that corresponds to the other part, and then you place as shown. Place as shown, and then draw it out through to make sure it's corresponding. As you can see, it's corresponding very well. Alright guys, so now sorry, before we join the sleeve, you have to first and foremost fold the armhole area by half an inch. Fold it to the front this way, right? Half an inch all through. Half an inch all through. Fold it this way because we are making a packet shirt, that's a top stitching shirt. Fold all through this way. Half an inch all through this way. You fold it on both sleeves, that's on both sleeves, right? Then after folding, let's proceed. Alright guys, so now we are trying to join the sleeve to the body of the outfit. Then make sure you pick up the right full sleeve, that's meaning picking up the right sleeve or the left sleeve, and as well corresponding to the left part of the outfit, right? Now don't pick right and put on left part of the clothes, neither will you pick left and put on the right part of the clothes. So now I have picked the corresponding panel now, and then I am fixing it on the part of the body. Now the only thing that we use to know if you are right or wrong is that the bigger sleeve will face the main fabric, while the smaller aspect of the sleeve is going to face the back side of the cloth, right? Then you face it down, the right faces facing each other this way, and then you sew. Make sure that you place it on the notch positions or the notch points. Now we are just trying to insert the half an inch we folded as if we are using the sleeve to pipe the body of the clothes. So you are sewing from the tip of the sleeve now. Also make sure you take your time to insert the sleeve to enter properly so that it will not pull as we progress in the sewing. The sleeve is coming on top of the body of the clothes by the half an inch folding we have sewn now. So you take your time to do this. So now we are done sewing from the center half. Now it's time for us to complete the other half. Don't forget that you are still to top stitch this sleeve. We're only inserting the sleeve underneath, we're inserting the main outfit underneath the sleeve folding. That half an inch we have folded. Make sure that the right faces must face each other as before you start sewing, right? And make sure that you are picking up the right full sleeve to insert on the right full outfit, meaning picking up the left sleeve and insert on the left part of the clothes, and not picking the right and inserting on the left, right? So make sure you take your time to do this, and then you sew as shown. And then next thing you need to know is that, like I said initially, there are different ways of sewing, and they are peculiar to individuals and different aspects, approaches, but at the end of the day, all of us will still arrive at the same outfit. So whichever method that you are used to, I'm not trying to dispute any other method out there. I'm only trying to show you how I do mine, and then this will go a long way to assist most of us that we have need to make clothes during the seasonal period and during for your normal customer demand, you can make use of this video, make your clothes, and then tell me the results in my DM, and then as well share some works you have done to encourage others to practice as well. I know the video might be lengthy or bulky to watch or boring to watch, but I will urge you all to see it as a movie and watch and learn. So now we are trying to top stitch the shirt. After you must have joined your sleeve. So this is how it looks like, right? This is how it will look like. Now the gap or the inch left here will be facing, look at how it looks like. Now the inch left here will be facing the main shirt and not the sleeve. It will be pushed toward the shirt area, and please don't push this toward the sleeve. The top stitching comes on the main body of the shirt and not the sleeve. So you push it that way to the body of the shirt, and then you top stitch that same gap you used in the folding. Push it under, and then you top stitch that way. You can decide to do 2 top stitching. You can decide to do 1. Anyone want to do is very much okay. But then I'm doing this one now. So you top stitch from there, and the while top stitching, you make sure you open it up. Now the reason of fixing this sleeve first is to enable us do this, because if you fix your curve before you can't do this anymore, right? Because the sleeve must have been locked at that point. So you top stitch. As you're top stitching, you're also guiding the one beneath, making sure it's pushed towards the men's shirt and not to the sleeve. The allowance under must be positioned toward the men's shirt, and then while you top stitch. Top stitching takes place from the shirt part and not from the main body, right, and not the sleeve body. Then you top stitch all through. You take your time to top stitch. That's what I'm doing now. Top stitch from beginning to end, and then whatever you did now or you have done now is what you repeat on the other part of the sleeve. So guys, we are still trying to do the next sleeve, and then I'm just trying to show so that you will still see, so in case there's any error or there's nothing you there was any issue of understanding, you can watch it the second time and then get clarified and do your own as shown. So like I said, you have to tuck in the sleeve parts, the men's shirt material under the sleeve folding. Now that sleeve folding was 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch rather, 1/4 inch. Then tuck it in, making sure that the right sides are facing each other. And then when they face each other, you are now going to sew from the tip, and then make sure before you start sewing that the shirt is properly tucked in underneath the 1/2 or 1/4 inch sleeve folding, right? And then once you're able to do this, you now top stitch from the outside as shown, and then you are done with the sleeve folding. Now the next you will do now is to lock the sides and as well do the necessary top stitching, which I'll also show you as we progress. So now this is the last part of the shirt top stitching, right? And for the sleeve joining. So after the joining, you also do the top stitching as shown in the previous sleeve. So now we are top stitching the second sleeve, and then this is how you do it. And then don't forget that the essence of showing this video is for you to just see how it's done. Then don't forget that you also push the allowance towards the main body of the shirt, meaning the real body, not the sleeve part, right? So you top stitch from that direction. So when you get to this stage, you're almost done with your outfit, and then the next thing you will do now is as well to top stitch the corresponding sides, and then go to the collar and the cuffs, and then fold the shirt, and the shirt is done, right? As you can see, we are done top stitching the body. Later on you iron it out so that it will be flat, right? So this is how you do yours, and then the next thing you do now is to start locking the body. So now we want to lock the body of the outfit, and then don't forget that what added was extra 1/2 inch, so you push the back to be 1/2 inch wider than the front, it will be used to seal the edge. So you place it in this form, and then you first and foremost confirm the folding this way, right? So you fold in this form. The same pattern used in locking the sleeve is what you're applying on at the sides now. So you sew it from here, 1/2 inch first. Make sure that the back part is 1/2 inch wider now in sewing. Then, as if you are using the back to pipe the front. So fold this first this way. And then make sure that your armholes are corresponding as well. You fold that way. Now this method is one of the easiest methods as well you can ever come across. Is package shirt making, and then you make sure before you get to this stage you must have confirmed your customer's measurement, because any error in measurements you can't adjust this anymore, because all the allowances have been trimmed off, and then you just have only the real measurement left. So that's one of the disadvantages of this method, but then it's really good. So this is how you're gonna do it. You make sure as well that you sew all through from the body to the sleeve, and then making sure as well that the back sleeve is 1/2 inch wider than the front piece of the sleeve as well. So you go all through and fold your sleeve in this form. Then when you must have gotten to this stage, you can now be happy that at least you have achieved a whole lot in shirt making, and then you can beat your chest and take works or projects on shirts, and then you are sure to arrive at a nice result, considering the fact that as long as your chest measurements and other measurements are correct and corresponding, you won't have issues at all on this. So at this stage now, we have to repeat the same procedure or process at the other parts of the sleeve as well, or the body as well. From the down part of the sleeve all through, from the down part of the shirt all through to the sleeve. That's how we close the side of the sleeve, right? That's the essence of keeping 1/2 inch inside, so that at the end of the day, the 1/2 inch will serve you for the top stitching effects that you want. Then you open it up. Now this one, now the top stitching or the allowance left will be pushed to the back, right? You now top stitch from here. You top stitch, make sure it's pushed to the back. Please don't push it to the front, right? Push to the back this way, right? Push to the back this way. It must be pushed to the back as well, right? Then you go in that direction, and then you sew and make sure you come out in a proper form. Now we are doing the next one, and then the same procedure we have taken on the initial one is what we are doing now as well. Please make sure you take your time to do all of this. Don't be in a haste to finish any one, rather take your time. Now this joining started from the sleeve for the second one, so that because like I told you, I like sewing from the right hand side, from the left hand side, sorry. Then you fix the sleeve, the front panel towards the back panel will come towards the back. Front panel will go towards the back. The top stitching comes on the back part of the clothes, right? The front panel will come towards the back. The top stitching is towards the back panel of the outfit. So you have to take your time to do all of this, right? Making sure that everything is properly arranged, and then by the end of this video now, all of us will be able to make our student outfits, to make our shirts sorry about that I used to say that top making. All of us will be. So now we are top stitching, right? Now making sure that the top stitch is as well coming on the back part of the cloth, right? So as you can see, it's very easy. It's for us to pay attention to details, know how to go about it, and know how to start and end. So I pray this video meets us well, and I pray it answers all questions we have on package shirt making. And then I pray to see results from all participants and from members of the group, both on Telegram and on the YouTube platforms. And then if you are watching this video on YouTube, try to subscribe to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button at the right hand side of your screen. And then if you're watching this video on the Telegram group, please try to visit my YouTube channel and subscribe so that you will be informed or notified when I make new videos and posts, right? For those of us that are on YouTube, please, I have a Telegram class, a Telegram family where I share most of my videos too, right? So because the ones I post on YouTube, some of them are different from the ones I post on Telegram. So if you want to have full access to Telegram classes, send a DM to my number at 0803-895-9186. Then I will add you after you have made your payment. So now we are top stitching the shirts at the sleeve area. You have to take your time as well to go through this whole protocols and procedures. So when you have gotten to this stage now, we're almost done, and then you now continue. So now we have finished top stitching the sides. As you can see how neatly it's done, both the inside and the outside, right? This is how the inside should look like after top stitching, right? Then after this now, the next thing you do now is to fold the down part of the shirt, bearing in mind that you have added your ½ inch already for the down folding when you were trimming. So all through we have folded, and then later on we will iron this out. Then after this now, the next thing you will do now is to fold ½ inch for the down part of the shirt, that the shirt folding. Now at this point is where you also need to pay more focus or attention on because it's still part of your finishing. So you are going to fold twice, right? Fold ½ inch first, and then you fold again. Then make sure you start from the button allowance. You fold ½ inch first, and then you fold again. So fold ½ inch first that way, and then you fold again. So you have a double folding there, right? So that double folding will serve you for your folding of the shirt allowance at the bottom part, and then you start sewing. Then you take your time, go gradually. As you're folding, make sure you retain the stretchy nature of the tip of the shirt. Make sure you retain the stretchy nature. A little pull will help you achieve the perfect folding. A little pull. Don't pull too much. A little pull, and then you fold. Little pull will be very much needed. Fold gradually. Don't try to be in a haste to finish everything. Fold gradually. As you're folding, apply little pull from the edge so that you will have a perfect folding. And then next thing you need to bear in mind is that don't make much curves at the down part of the shirt, so that the curvy nature, the more the curve, the harder it is to fold. Make a slight curve that will not be too much or too small as well. Then you fold accordingly. Then as you are progressing or are approaching to the back part of the shirt as well, try to be in control of the folding. Don't allow the back to control you, because it's actually a tactical work at the back part of the shirt. So try to fold and then make use of the stretchy nature to balance your folding, right? Pick up some distance, fold, and sew. Go gradually. So when you sew and get to a bit closer to the last part of the folding, you pause, you pick up another distance, fold again, and then adjust the stretchy clothes to make sure that it laps properly, right? Then tuck in the edges underneath, and then you sew. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope the video is self-explanatory enough that will give you more knowledge on shirt making. So fold as shown. Then make sure you don't have any rumples while folding the shirt. Try your best to stretch it a bit as you're folding. So now when you get to this stage of folding, you have to give it more attention so that you not use the folding to spoil the stress you have undergone in the cutting and the sewing processes or procedures. Then when you get to this stage, like I said, you just have to take your time to fold. The reason I'm showing the whole folding protocols or procedures is for you to see that it's not easy per se, but if you can focus your mind in it, you can achieve it as well. Then at this edge, you make sure that the shirt doesn't spill over above the button allowance. You make sure it laps or ends at the exact point of the button allowance, right? So you take your time to do this as well. So now we are done with the folding. Then cut your threads, and then you go and iron, and then we now start fixing the cuff and the collar. Bear in mind we are here to fix our cuff and collar, so you iron it out all through to make sure you have a relaxed effect at the down part of your outfit. Alright guys, let's go and iron. So we are ironing. You sprinkle water, right, and then you iron properly. Make sure that it's properly relaxed. So now look at how the folding came out. Now the reason I'm showing you this so that you see how it is, so that you know when you are right or wrong, right? Now look at how the folding came out. Now it's a bit rumpled, alright, or unbalanced, but by the time you iron, look at the part you have ironed, look at how smooth it is. So if your own is like this, don't feel bad. You iron this, right? Not everybody or every person will show you the raw work before ironing. Everybody will show you the finished part, and then you might be thinking that the folding came out in this form after folding. It's a lie. It doesn't come out that way. It comes out in this form. After the folding, the essence of ironing is very important here. So that's why everybody wants to show you the finishing effects, but then I show you the raw results prior to packaging. So let's iron. So you sprinkle water on it, you sprinkle water on that part, and then you iron. So now we have ironed out the shirt at the down part of the clothes, right? This is the result. You see how relaxed it is. So you also iron out every other component. Take a very close look at it. This is how it came out, right? So it's as nice as you can see. So you now proceed to the part of the cuff and the collar.